Whoa! All right, everybody. It is Father's Day, June 21st, 2020. I'm Scott Miller. This is Sheep Guarding Llama. I'm doing the first part of today. Now it is 10:17 in the morning. It is gorgeous outside, heavy overcast. The dog is having a good time out by the fence. I just caught up on all the videos from the last week, pretty much. And I wanted to kind of do catch up today. So first, happy Father's Day to my father. Happy Father's Day. And to all the fathers out there. Uh, so I wanted to get this out so I could get that posted and say Happy Father's Day. And I'll catch up one tonight that kind of covers actually what happened during the day. Right now, Mia and I are just enjoying being outside. I have my morning coffee, which I've only barely had a sip of yet. That is good. And I'm loving this weather. It's actually, I'm going to guess below. I said 76, but it might be like 75, 74. Like, this is really nice. And there's no sun. This is a nice, thick cloud cover, the kind of cloud cover that noticeably makes it more quiet. And there's this really light breeze coming through the trees. It's ideal. It's so nice. It's been hot for the last like 5 days. So we won't get many more days that are nice and chill like this. We had a really big storm 2 nights ago on Friday night, which Jeremy is lucky that he didn't. There's a squirrel in the tree. The dog's going crazy. Jeremy's really lucky that he missed it because it was a tremendous storm that came through on Friday night. It was ripping down branches. I was worried about tornadoes. Had to keep a close eye on it. Had to bring down the umbrella in the atrium. It was that windy. But yesterday was just hot and calm, and now it's cool and calm. So this is just nice. I'm just really liking this. So this morning, I had said this in another video, Mia found something in the yard, and I went over to investigate because I am worried that a snake could be in here, and I don't want her to get hurt. But it's a little turtle, and so I had to make sure she was not messing with it. But there's a cute little turtle hanging out by Dominica's little garden. There's a little patch of grass and stuff, and we keep it watered, so it must be like, hey, this is a nice little spot. I don't know. I don't know what turtles do in Texas. Like, I don't know where it came from or where it's off to. Like, but yeah, he seems chill. So I managed to convince Mia not to mess with the turtle, and she's being good about that. And now she is looking for the squirrel, but she can't catch the squirrels, and the squirrels openly mock her. It's great. They will actually lay on the fence and do things to get her to chase them, and then they'll run away. Like, it's become a thing. So this has been going on for like a year, and so the squirrels really know her, and she really knows them, and she'll yap at them, and they'll run, and they'll do laps together and all kinds of stuff. It's I don't know. But you can see her intently watching it up in the tree. Like, she knows it's there, it knows she's there, and it's just messing with her. And she'll go over that fence. She'll go right up to the top, no problem, trying to get to it. But it knows exactly where her reach ends, and it stays just beyond it. So, constant entertainment for her. Jeremy got up at 5:45 this morning and got on the road down to Friendswood, Texas. He's going to be barely making it for his 10 a.m. Well, he should have made it 20 minutes ago for a 10 a.m. breakfast that he's got scheduled down there, right next to Dominica's family. And starting tomorrow morning, he is shopping for houses in the Woodlands, Spring, Cypress kind of area. So he's really excited about that. He's been wanting to come down to Texas for a long time, and his wife's siblings have all moved down and live in that area already, or are in the process of moving down. They're like in motion. So it's a perfect opportunity to move to that area and be really close. He'll actually only be 3.5 hours away from here on a good day. So that's really nice. And we looked it up yesterday because we were just looking to see what flights were like to go between Houston and one of the airports near where we'll be in Nicaragua. And I know flights to Managua are not the best from Houston right now, just because like there's not that much traffic. So like you may have to come up to DFW to catch that flight. But to go to SAL, San Salvador, which is near enough that I can either drive there or just take a bus there, from Houston is $34. So, and that's the airport right by the Woodlands. So really easy to be like, oh hey, I'll just take a drive up to that airport and meet you for $34 and get work done or do whatever down there. So that's pretty funny that there's no way we could fly that cheaply or quickly when he was in New York, because he wasn't by one of the New York City airports, and it's just weird, right? So this morning the kids are still asleep, and I'm just enjoying the morning with the dog. I slept in. I saw Jeremy off, got him in the car, made sure he was good to go, and then went back to bed. And Mia and I got up around 9:15 probably, and It's been a nice morning. Planning on spending the day playing video games with the girls, and Paul and Dominica are already on their way back here. They are, I think, in Minnesota right now, and heading towards, I don't know the actual name of it, but the Little House on the Prairie Museum there. That's actually in the house. Like, they're going to go see the actual homestead in Minnesota, which I'd like to see, but like, if I'm driving by, I'd like to see. This is like one of the biggest things for Dominica, and she was like, "Are you okay if I go see this without you?" And I'm like, I really don't care. It's if I was in the car, I would want to get out and go see it, right? I would appreciate being there. Not I'm not poo poo on it, but it's a pretty minor thing. I was not a fan of the books as a child. I read them all. It was a big part of my childhood. It was big. We did it in school. It was a big thing. My mother and I read them together as well. But it was never something I was really into. I never like read them twice or anything like that. Never found the characters particularly endearing or anything. But it is a big part of my childhood growing up, going to school at PBS and all that. But for her, they were like her childhood books that made her fall in love with reading, kind of thing. And so she's really into Laura Ingalls Wilder and really wants to go see the homestead. So they're doing that today because it's been one of her lifelong ambitions to go there. And the reality is, we've been to Minnesota, we have been to Wisconsin. We don't have them high on our list of places to go see again. The last thing tying Paul to Wisconsin was his father. Now that he has passed, there's every possibility that we will never go to Minnesota or Wisconsin again. And so this, realistically, without making a special trip just to do it, represents what is quite possibly the last time Dominica will ever have to just stop and see the Little House on the Prairie home. So they are doing that, right? Because it's just an area of the country that we almost never went to in any way. I mean, we never set foot in either of those places till the last 2 years, and we may never do so again. It just doesn't come up. It's in a spot that just doesn't really get hit naturally. It's not real far to get to because it's Route 35 right from here. You can hear the thunder, but it's yeah, it's thunder. Now she has the zoomies, but. She gets so excited over the littlest things. So it's a big deal. They're going to go do that today on the way home. So I think that they will be here tomorrow because I don't think they can do the drive straight through and go see a museum. It's just not realistic. So that is the news from Carrollton, Texas. And because we're moving to Nicaragua, things like traveling around the U.S. are going to be almost impossible. So we're going to try to do a little bit before we leave, because it is kind of our last hurrah. I really want to make sure I see Utah and Idaho and knock out the lower 48 for me before we go. And we really want to take the kids and see like the Southwest and some of that stuff. Like, we live too close and it's too iconic to have gone there one time and done some of that stuff. They have seen so much of the South and so much of the Northeast and a bit of the Midwest. There's no realistic way we're going to be able to get them out to see like the Pacific Northwest and California during this time, but those are things we can hit someday. But once we go to Nicaragua, all of our time, every single day matters, and we're going to be spending, if we're in the United States, we're going to be spending it with family. And so there's no coming back to the U.S. to like go see a national park or something, or just go visit Chicago or something like that. That will not happen until the girls are old enough to do it on their own, or until we no longer are residents in Nicaragua. Just the complexity of things, the U.S. becomes more or less off limit to us, except for very limited visiting families. I hope I caught that. That was the squirrel going along the fence, taunting the dog. Ooh, it made it over there, and she doesn't realize she lost it. It did a whole loop back and forth, and she lost track of where it was. That was a good one. Wow. I hope it's visible. I can see it on the screen, so I'm hoping in 4K that it really shows up. I'm sorry, this is recorded in 2K, but still. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna have so much opportunity to travel and do really interesting and exciting stuff when we're down living in Nicaragua, but the U.S. becomes the thing we don't get to see. So it is what it is, right? We have to choose our things, but so we want to do some of those things before they're too hard to do. Nothing's out of completely off limits to us. It's just it becomes much harder to do. Now, some of Dominica's family is talking about possibly moving to Nicaragua. If that happens, suddenly it's so much easier to do stuff in the U.S. because we have so much more time. But realistically, just how things are. So I did have some time talking to the girls yesterday because they had some questions about things. We were watching some stuff and we were talking about Nicaragua, And Liesel has finally said she's seen some stuff. It's really the travel. She hates traveling to Nicaragua, but she is actually pretty interested in being in Nicaragua. It's just going to and coming from. Those are the parts she doesn't like. But she thinks it looks pretty nice. And she also really likes the look of Honduras. We looked at El Tigre, and she was like, I really like this place. Um, and Luciana has been wanting to go. Like, she is itching. She's constantly like, when are we traveling again? I want to get to Nicaragua. I want to go to new places and see things. So it's so ingrained for her, which is great. But I was saying, once we get to Nicaragua, this is one of the few places in the Western Hemisphere, about the only, where you can just go to other countries really easily, because it is an easy drive to Honduras, El Salvador, and Costa Rica, and it is a moderate drive, like going to maybe Iowa equivalent, to go to like Panama, Guatemala, and Belize, and only a tiny bit further to go to Mexico. And if you take the ferry or a really quick flight to Colombia, right? So all of those places are within the like, I feel like going here this weekend kind of thing, right? It's a 3-day weekend. Let's go to, El Salvador, and she's really excited about that. It's very much like Europe, that if you're in the middle, if you're in like Germany or Switzerland or Austria, suddenly it's like, oh, all these places, there's borders everywhere and different cultures and different unique things that you can go do so easily without even having to get on a plane. That's gonna be really nice for a number of years, right? We're only gonna have so much time, especially because we're not going to stop traveling, and we're hoping that this really enables us to travel more. So we want to go see Argentina and Chile. We really want to see more of Europe, obviously. We really want to see Vietnam and Laos and Malaysia and like that region a lot. Japan. There's so many. New Zealand, right? There's so many far afield places that we really want to go. I really want to see Rwanda right now. Like, this is the prime time to go there. Malawi looks really nice, and kind of that, the Great Lakes cluster. And Dominica really wants to do Egypt when the girls are a little bit older and can really remember and appreciate just how much effort it is to go do that and do a cruise down the Nile. All those things are really big on the, we want to do those things, and those things are all far away. So it's going to take a number of years of living in Nicaragua, of being like, okay, so for the next couple weeks, we're going to run to Costa Rica or to Honduras or whatever and hit those places. And they're going to be a regular, like, always available to us, shorter trips thing. And there's so much to do in each of those countries, obviously. There's so much to do in Nicaragua, and all of those are bigger than Nicaragua, either by population or by like tourism. So the region has so much to offer, whether it's Tikal in Guatemala or Antigua, or the Ruta de las Flores in El Salvador, or I've been watching stuff on Honduras. Honduras is absolutely gorgeous. It's amazing watching stuff on Honduras, how much it looks like the United States compared to Nicaragua. If you were in Nicaragua and wondering what the U.S. looked like and had never been there, you could go to Honduras, and like their road signs and the way that they do their roads, and all the American restaurants and stuff, you can tell as an American that it's not America, but it is closer to the U.S. than it is to Nicaragua in what it looks and feels like. It's so weird. Like San Pedro Sula, you drive through and it's like, wow. So there's McDonald's, KFC, a Wingstop, Church's Chicken, like we have around the corner here. It's a Texas chain. Like, it's weird how American it is. Like, really, really weird. I also was doing a little thing the other day. I can't remember who I was talking to, but they were asking, one of the reasons that we really like Nicaragua is that the American influence is very low, the number of expats. Now, we're going to be in an expat village, we think, and so we're going to have access to Americans, Canadians, and Brits. They do exist there, but like, even there's not that many. It's not like an enclave, really. It's just a town that's more popular with them. And when you look at pictures of town, it's clear that locals live there. It's a fishing village. It's full of stuff for the locals, plus things that cater to tourists and expats. So I looked at some numbers, and the number one place for American diaspora is Mexico, quite obviously. 1.5 million Americans live in Mexico. So there's a lot of influence there, but it's also important to realize that Mexico is enormous, and so that represents around about 1% of the total population. So it's very small in population, but it's a lot of people, right? And they're mostly concentrated in certain areas. So you're going to find areas where there's just a lot of Americans. If you look at like Panama, there's like 25,000 in a country that's really small. So they're very noticeable, and there are enclaves there, and like El Salvador and Guatemala and Honduras, they all have tens of thousands of Americans, big numbers, and then like Nicaragua has in the entire country, in the physically largest country in Central America, there are 4,000 Americans living in the country. 4,000. That's it. It is so small. It is half the number of Americans that live in Kuwait, which is the size of like a small town. It barely shows up on a map. Nicaragua is so big, has so many cities, and the Americans are spread out all over them. We know that lots live in Leon. We know that lots live in Managua for business. We know that lots live in Granada because we know there's expat like restaurants that go there. We know that San Juan del Sur has a good number of them, but pretty much no town can have over 1,000. And so if San Juan del Sur has 1,000, which would be really high, that means that it's still only 1/15th of the village proper, and then Rivas, which is nearby, is another like 40,000 people. The whole region's a few 100,000. There cannot be more than 1,500 Americans in that region. And the rain has started, I hear just a few drops. So I'm going to cut that off as the morning here in Carrollton, Texas, but it is very exciting that the girls are really on board with the move at this point, which is good because it is in motion. Right, we are making this happen. We are extremely serious. This is where we want to be, and for just so many reasons, it's just the right time to make it all happen. So thanks for watching. I'll see everybody later today.